Testing, testing, testing. So have you got volume on? It should come through shortly. Let's see if we can. We'll just see if we've got Councillor Gassett. Are you there, Gabby? Can you hear me, Gabby?
Good evening, elected members, staff members, members of the public, both those who are here and joining us online. Thank you for joining us. I declare this agenda briefing open. Councillors, in doing so, we have had a request from Councillor Gassett to join electronically. I have not approved that request as I don't believe it followed the council policy that we adopted last week. As per that councillor policy though, Councillor Gassett has requested that council make a determination. His location is below. Those in favour of allowing Councillor Gassett to join the meeting, please indicate. Those against? That request is denied. Moving along, for those who haven't joined us before, and I do recognise familiar faces in the room, but this is the agenda briefing session. It's an opportunity for elected members to ask questions of our staff members and get informed before official decision-making process will take next week. So thank you for those who have joined us, and we'll work through our agenda. We have no deputations this evening. I've spoken to a couple of the members of the public who may or may not choose to do that next week. We have received 2 declarations of interest though, one from Councillor Andrew on item 10.4.1, the tourism plan, and this is a financial interest given he has some services provided through that process. So Councillor Andrew will leave the room for item 10.4.1, and we do have another declaration of interest from Councillor Brown on item 10.3.5, which is on the specified area rate at the Pelican Point Canal. It's also a financial interest as there's a closely related person with property in that area. Is there any other declaration of interest for tonight's council meeting? Thank you. And moving our way through the agenda itself now, councillors, we have item 10.2.1 as the CEO KPI report quarter 3. Any questions on this, councillors? Thank you. 10.3.1. Questions on this, councillors? Councillor Turner?
There were some duplicates, so which of those would we be still keeping, please?
CEO, you have a response on that?
So I might just pass over to the Director of Corporate Community to see if she had a comment.
Through the chair, we will be looking at...
You don't have to stand, Director. It's a briefing session. Thank you.
Yeah, where there are duplicates, we will keep one item. And then some of the other items are either broken or not deemed usable for us.
Any other questions, councillors? Thank you. 10.3.2, the corporate business plan. Councillor Steck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just in relation on page 45 of 125, the development of the Bicentennial Square precinct plan. The first stage of the community consultation is complete. What other consultation will occur with the community?
Sure. Excuse me, CEO.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Steck, for the question. We are planning another briefing with elected members where we'll bring back the sort of outcome from the community consultation. So, and what we'll be doing then is seeking council endorsement to go out back out to the community with what that draft plan shows. So the intent of the briefing with elected members is to seek your input and seek ultimately approval to go back out to the community to get feedback on the draft plan.
Further question, Mr Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Steck.
Just also in relation to the plan that goes out to the community, will that show the various stages? Because i.e. like the demolition of the toilet block and so
Whatever
on and
else
so on?
Yeah. CEO, implementation plan, I think.
Thank you. There will be a proposed implementation plan. So the idea is we'll brief elected members and seek approval to go back out to the community. Included in the work that's been done will be an implementation plan, because what we don't want is another plan that we don't have back that up with funding. There is clearly some priorities around that, and those things we would do first, and that'll be included in the implementation plan.
Just before Councillor Turner, just a follow-up question probably just around that next stages. Have you got any idea of dates around that, CEO, when it's going to come back to a council briefing and potentially a council meeting?
Thank you, Mayor. It was planned for the 27th of May to be an elected strategic briefing, but I think there's been a request to make an amendment to that, given some of the staffing issues with the movement of one of our staff members to another role. So I'll come back to elected members with a plan for when that will come to the strategic briefing. The idea is then seek a council decision around the formal part, which is the advertising back to the community, and then which will include the implementation plan. So I'm happy, Mayor, to just confirm when that will come back onto the strategic briefing in the first instance.
Thank you. Councillor Turner?
Thank you. We've discontinued the support for the Bunbury Croquet Club nightlights and also Hay Park cricket nets. Can I have an explanation, please?
CEO, do you have that relevant?
So I don't have that detail to hand, but I'm happy to take those on notice, Councillor Turner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Steele?
Just going on to what Councillor Steck was saying regarding the Bicentennial Square precinct, will there also be alternatives about keeping the laneways for four during that time?
CEO?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Steele. So there will be a landscape plan that shows what the community feedback has told us, and the session with the elected members will be about your level of comfort about going back out to the community with the plan. The plan shows, I probably would prefer not to talk about what the plan until we talk about it, but there will be a plan that you will get an opportunity to have some input into, and for council to make a decision about the level of comfort of that plan going out to the community.
Councillor Steele?
I think I voiced my uncomfort of
Councillor
so that's
Question?
why I'm asking. So the question would be is, I feel I've already voiced my concern. So, and I asked, could we please have plans with keeping 4 lanes? So I hope that has been heard and was listened on that night.
We'll have this session, Councillor Steele, with elected members, and then obviously at some stage a position back for council. So we'll deal with that when that comes through that process. Councillor Steck?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Question in relation to page 49. It relates to the Bunbury Brighter campaign. Market Force, there was 2 campaign concepts received from Market Force. One was selected, and Phase 5 will deliver a 3-year rollout strategy for a Bunbury Brighter big weekender. What is that, and where is it at?
Yeah, I think we did have that briefing session next door, but I wonder if we can provide a summary there, or we can provide that in writing of that full notice. But CEO, I'll give you a crack at that. Thank
you, Mayor. It's probably better if I just take that on notice and provide that outside of this.
Thank you. And can I also ask a further question on that?
Sure.
It's not mentioned in the tourism plan either. So
around the Bunbury Brighter.
Yeah, and that, you know, big weekender, check in to win, bright spots, all of that is not in the tourism plan. So the question is, can I update the tourism plan to have those?
Let's ask that question when we get to the tourism plan item later on. Councillor Steck, I reckon. Thank you. Any further questions on this item? Councillor Quain.
Thank you, Mayor. On page 47, it talks about renew, resleeve and improve drainage network. Does that include the Hay Park sporting precinct, the drain that runs along?
5 Mile Brook?
Yep, 5 Mile Brook.
CEO, do you have an idea on that just yet, or taken on notice?
I may just ask the Acting Director of Infrastructure if she'd like to answer that.
Through you, Mr Mayor. It's actually this year is the Creek Street drainage that's being done. 5 Mile Brook did have part of it done last year, and then we've got it programmed through going through the years.
Thank you. Further questions? Thank you. 10.3.3, councillors, just aligning up with the local government changes and executive recommendation up until October. Any questions on this? Thank you. 10.3.4, and council, this is coming back due to the council decision to bring an item back to council. There's obviously a little bit more work to do in this space. Is there any questions on this? I have a couple. Councillor Quain.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, what is the proposed opening hours? Does the staff have sort of some proposal that they would like to put towards this working group?
Yeah, I might just, in answer to that, Marina, Councillor Quain, my apologies, sorry, Councillor. I will just ask the CEO maybe to give that summary and in cover as well. My question is around that, where the allocation fund came from. So I might just ask the CEO if he would like to, or maybe defer that to one of the officers about where we got to on this and what the next steps are, because there's still a little bit of work in that. But CEO, happy for you to do that.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make some probably introductory comments. So this report, as suggested, there hasn't been a lot of time between the council decision and this report coming back to council. What we're seeking to do here is to get endorsement of an allocation of up to 300,000. That will be additional funding that will include in the 25-26 budget. That's the operating funding, and as the report suggests, there's still more work that needs to be done in terms of the capital requirements of that building. We all understand that there's work that needs to be done on the air conditioning system and some of the other equipment. What the report suggests is an increase in opening hours, and we heard that clearly in the discussions that we had at the community meetings. We've done a proposal that sees up to the library open up to 28 hours a week, but again, we're keen to work with the community to discuss that and to frame that. So I think the actual cost might be around 240, but we've got some room to move. But the idea is to do further consultation with the community and work in an operating model that's going to suit. So the additional costs are to have permanent staff. As you know, currently we take staff from our current city library to fill in at the Withers Library. So this will give us a dedicated staff. It will give us a program that we can work to, but it's probably still needs some further work. The purpose of the report, as I said, is to seek to get this to council so that you can think about allocating some money in the 25-26 budget that will complement the budget that we already have, and allow further consultation to happen with the community to come up with an appropriate model of service that meets their requirements.
Just to follow up on that, if I could as well, you just talked about part 3 and the capital and asset management upgrades. There was some indication that the local member may not be able to contribute to operating costs, but maybe some opportunity to request funding for capital upgrades. Is there a part that we could maybe update that to include a request from that support as well, to look at any of those facilities or those opportunities?
Thank you, Mayor. It's a good point. It was raised during the discussions, and we'd be keen to understand what's required. So if there's air conditioning upgrades and equipment upgrades that we need, understand the quantum of that, and then certainly, our local member did express an interest in potentially supporting some additional capital costs for this facility. So happy if that was something that elected members wanted to move next week.
Thank you. Councillor Turner.
Just regarding the further consultation with community, is that just with the local area, or is that going to be the whole of Bunbury? Because with an additional rate rise of 0.75%, it's going to affect everyone. And it's not just a one-off rate rise, it'll be a continued annual rate rise added.
CEO, do you have a response about what the community consultation level looks like at this stage?
Yeah, so certainly the initial consultation will be with the Withers community group, but and obviously we'll have some budget discussions that if this is included in the budget, then that will be part of the wider discussion. We as you're probably well aware, the modelling for next year's budget has been based on the 5.5%. This will be something that we'll have to find in addition to that. We've got pretty much a balanced budget as we speak, so this will be additional funding that we'll need to find.
Sorry, Councillor Quain, I didn't, sorry, Councillor Turner, I didn't think Councillor Quain had a follow-up question. I'll come back to you, Councillor Quain, and then I'll come over here. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is there any proposal for another organisation or community group to be involved in this new operation model?
I know that was certainly what was discussed around what other opportunities could be there as part of that, so I'm sure it'll be part of the community consultation. But CEO, is any further work happening in that space?
And not to this point, but it is something we are looking at other models, and there is other models even within this state that we can look at. And some of the sentiment in the discussion was about other certainly programming opportunities. I don't think that the level of staffing is a different matter. We need a regular workforce to have the building open and to do all the things that we need to do to meet the standards. But the programming could be a mixture, and that's why we've got a up to figure in the report.
Sorry, Councillor Turner, back to you.
Thank you. Just regarding, you're talking about upgrades of staff appointments, trial period, which will be over 6 months to then adjust opening hours or levels of engagement. Is there any feedback on, because that'll be over the summer period, is there any feedback what the numbers are with winter and summer? Is there because if it's high over summer, you go upgrading, and then winter's a slow time. Has that been taken into account? Thank you.
CEO?
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Turner. I probably need to just check back with the manager in relation to that, and we may need to extend the timeframe to take that into account, Councillor Turner, so that what we want to do obviously is be able to adjust the hours depending on how many numbers we get in certain days. And there may be certain days that suit the community, or certain days where you want longer hours versus other days where you might be closed. I think at the moment Wednesdays are looking like the day it would be closed. But there are all things that we can work on. But I'll ask the Director of Corporate and Community if she wants to make another comment.
Yes, sure. Through the chair, we could possibly look at 12 months trial instead, so you have a full cycle of all the months, and then we can plan the actual hours accordingly after that.
Thank you. Any questions of this side? I've been looking over there. Sorry, Councillor Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just following on from Councillor Turner, if this recommendation gets through next week, would we be having a timeline on implementation?
Yeah, and that'll be part of that continued work. And I think, as the CEO indicated, Deputy Mayor, this is allowing that budget consideration to come into, and as you'll see, it says up to. Some of those concepts that have been raised around the operating times are all things to still be considered. And of course, if there's a potential other model around a different operating group, there may obviously be not that required allocation, but this allows for up to that. So I'm assuming the community consultation has started in some capacity, but will continue as we work through that. CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. In the report, it does talk about the fact that this would commence around 30th September, so that'll allow enough time for the budget considerations and for the consultation to happen. So the idea at this stage is to commence whatever the agreed service is on 30th September.
Further questions, councillors? Director, through the CEO.
Thank you. Through the chair, just additional note, we would need to appoint staff as well, so that recruitment period could be up to 2, maybe even 3 months. So just to keep that in mind.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. 10.3.5 is the petition report and the recommendation back on that petition. Any questions on this, councillor? Oh, sorry, apologies, Councillor Brown. I'll just ask for Councillor Brown to leave the room. Sure, the CEO just is happy to make a comment before I take any questions on this particular item. CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. So you can see in the report that the recommendation is that we retain the status quo, but what we have also done is put in a couple of alternate recommendations. So should elected members as you know, we've had the petition. This is something that's been discussed over certainly the couple of budgets I think that I've been here. So we have put in a couple of alternate recommendations that sort of reflect the sentiment of the petition. I think there's an 80-20, which is what was requested in the petition, and a 70-30 type option. So we've had lots of discussions on this around the use of GRV, and you've seen what that shows. But if there was an appetite to support that, there is a couple of alternatives that elected members could consider.
Thank you, CEO. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Steele.
Thank you. So just to clarify that already there's a 61, I'll do 60-40, basically that the people that don't live on the waterfront already have a 60-40 reduction anyway. I've just added up 169 houses live in this area. Because this isn't just going to affect the people that we did the petition, have all the other, has there been a letterbox drop basically in that area that their rates may be affected either or way?
I wouldn't have thought so, being this is a petition, so there's the recommendations there, but CEO, there hasn't been that wider consultation, has there, CEO?
No, so thank you, Mayor. My understanding is there's been no other conversations with the community. This is really in response to the petition, but no, there's been no further letter drop by the city.
Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. When's the next lot of dredging due to take place, and what's the budget versus what's in the reserves for that?
Have an answer for that one, CEO, or maybe direct?
So there is, I think, just over 900,000. So the manager finance here may be able to find the exact figure that's in the reserve. In terms of the dredging, there was a review of that recently, and the acting director of infrastructure may be able to provide some further advice. But it's likely that is in a couple of years' time. But I'll pass over to the acting director to make a comment.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, they just done the survey on the dredging just recently with the report coming through. There are areas that they're looking at, so it will be programmed. Probably within the first 2 years, we'll start having some dredging done in that area.
Did you have a costing on that?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm pretty sure there's about 700,000 in the reserve.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it's just under 800,000.
And the cost of the dredging? Sorry, through the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor.
Through you, Mr Mayor, not at this point in time. I'd have to take that one on notice.
Thank you.
Just to give us an idea, when was it last done and how much it cost then, and then plus inflation, I'm
As we
assuming.
know, there's quite a bit of change in previous
Yes.
things, but CEO, do we know that?
My understanding from previous discussions is well over 1.1 million to dredge the whole canal. So again, if we've got the report, we can certainly do some further work on that. But my understanding of that, there was a shortfall in what we had in the reserve and what would be required.
Further questions? Councillor Turner?
I know a few houses that are rentals. Do we have numbers of how many of the ones on the canal are actual rentals? Because that would then probably be passed on to them.
I'm not sure if we had that data, but it's certainly not on the top of the hand. I wouldn't have thought, CEO.
Yeah, I'll perhaps Mayor take that on notice. I don't have that data to hand, and I'm not sure we do, but we'll see if there's anything we can provide before next week.
Our rates notices are always just to the landlord, Councillor Turner, so I'm not sure we'd have any data on whose renters. There'll probably be some other ABS data around, but probably nothing that the city owns, I wouldn't have thought. Okay, any further questions? If somebody could get, Councillor Andrew, could you get Councillor Brown and maybe just high-five him on the way past? It's a trade period. Thank you, Councillor Brown. The Bunbury Tourism Plan, questions on this, Councillor Steck?
As per the question previously, because the information is here and it is part of our tourism that we will be conducting within the city, I'm questioning why it's not in the plan, considering it is quite a extensive program.
CEO.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll probably get the Senior Tourism Officer to answer that. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would say in relation to theme 3, the destination marketing, and action 3.3, which has redeveloped the COB's destination marketing strategy, this would be an action that would fall out of that strategy, so something that would definitely be considered inside of that point. And then on to perhaps it moving into a hero event space, we could look at how that falls out of theme 4, which is place activation, and 4.1.2, which is identifying an annual hero event.
Councillor Steck.
More of a request than a question. On the contents page, it says a message from the CEO and Mayor, but in the actual document, it only says message from the Mayor.
Want to co-sign that one, CEO? Or maybe write your own?
I think we'll leave that to you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Further questions, just in relation to the current new market score, and we refer to the old market and the old date of 2019 or something, and I just question why we would put out an outdated report. I'd like the new market detail in the report, because the top 3 items have changed. The top 7 have changed.
The market survey responses, very to Councillor Steck, yeah. CEO, you have a response to that?
So if the question is, the current report contains the information prior to the market survey, which as elected members are aware, that only came out last week, so we're only briefed on that last week. So there's a question around if we're to adopt it, it is based on the current data and the report that's currently in place. Well, that's what we're asking elected members to adopt. There is always going to be changes and feedback that we're going to get from the community through things like the market scorecard. So there's what we're recommending again is we just approve the current report. I'm not sure whether we can make any, or we would make any changes to that. That's probably if elected members were keen on that, we could certainly look at that.
Yeah.
Just a further question, Mr. Mayor. Just in relation to page 23, it's the Destination New South Wales 2019 and the Vic Guest Journey, which is the actual picture. It needs to be customised so it refers to Bunbury, not to Victoria, and not to Destination New South Wales.
I'll take that more as a comment rather than a question, Councillor Steck.
Well, Mr. Mayor, why isn't it in part? Why is it still here? And I think that for the purpose of the meeting, I'd probably prefer to actually hand my written notes on the plan to staff.
How do you
feel about that?
I think that'll be a good idea, Councillor Steck, and maybe we can then get some written responses to those. Obviously, this recommendation is to adopt that as it is, but if there's some potential changes that can be accommodated, obviously, during that process with staff approval, that can come into it. And of course, obviously, you've always got the option next week to move any of those amendments as well. But I would suggest that definitely the first point of call, Councillor Steck, is provide those notes through the CEO to staff to get some feedback on. And then obviously we can work through that next week, whether or not they can be adopted as part of that. And then of course you've got the option to raise those as amendments or however other options that you've got for next week, Councillor Steck. But that would definitely be the first point, is to provide those notes for sure. And we can request they come through the CEO and shared with elected members as well as the responses. Thank you. Councillor Steele.
My similar lines, which I've just sort of read, page 9 and page 8, regarding why we're comparing ourselves to 3 eastern states cities.
Yep.
And why we're not, let's put the cow in the room, Busselton and Dunsborough those sort of places, or even then do 160 k's north and do Geraldton, why we aren't
A little
also
bit further
maybe
than 160 k's.
yeah,
as I said.
benchmarking.
Yeah, so why choose these? I think there was some
Yes.
information on where that comparison was, and that's fine. But I'll see if there's a comments around, other than what's outlined in those positions, why any of those other ideas weren't suggested in terms of other regional cities around WA.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As you're aware, this went through the Tourism Working Group and was part of the work that the consultants did in comparing different types of locations. Yes, they're not all in Western Australia, but they are all relevant to the development of our tourism plan. So the working group did discuss these, and there was certainly no feedback in the working group that these weren't reasonable comparisons as part of that process. So I'm not sure whether the Manager of Economic Growth wants to make any further comments in relation to that.
Through you, Mr Mayor. My understanding is that they were selected, I wasn't part of that process obviously, that they were selected because of the comparison of the cities. So the City of Newcastle, Greater Geelong, Coffs Harbour have similar situations that we have here in Bunbury.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor,
Councillor Steck.
maybe I'll leave it for next week because the
I
committee
feel-
itself did not select those cities.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel you're not going to ask a question here, so maybe we do leave that for next week. Councillor Steele, did you have a follow-up? Sorry. No, okay. Councillor Quain.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is in relation to the location of the visitor centre. So on page 30, it says to be reviewed once further development opportunities at Bicentennial Square have occurred and been reported on. When is that likely to happen?
Yeah, I asked that question earlier around the Bicentennial Square report, Councillor Quain. So obviously when that's briefed with elected members and put back to council as an adopted proposal to go back out for public comment, I'm assuming obviously there'll be some indication around there about visitor servicing through that process. So from what the indication is, that report is likely to come back to council sometime in June, with a briefing later in May and into early June is what we're expecting.
One more question, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor. And also, thank you for that response. And I noticed the supporting stakeholders to these items, and I'm wondering if the Bunbury Geograph Chamber of Commerce can be listed in item 1.5.
Yeah, CEO, any response? Again, I'm sure if that's something we can be added to, we may be able to, but CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I would think we can accommodate that. I'm just looking at the officers there, but I think we can accommodate that in that item.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Steele.
Wasn't that long ago we had a presentation, or about a year and a half ago, about changing where we direct our flow of our website, and I noticed we've still got that website, which I've just lost, the Visit Geograph one, but they said that we should be directing our flow through to our own website, so that's our first hit. I'm just wondering if that's going to be part of our change here. That was the best presentation I've ever sat through in council as well, when those gentlemen come
The
down.
Market Force, I think it was.
Yeah,
The
they
Market
were
Force.
great, yeah.
CEO, do we have a response?
So I think you're referring to the Market Force Councillor Steele presentation, which I think was early on when I first started. So I'm not sure if our senior tourism officer's got a comment in relation to that. Yep.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I would say that would be one of the actions that fall out of this destination marketing strategy, and we would see that land on Bunbury Bridal website, which is a city-owned asset.
Further questions? Thank you. Somebody able to collect Councillor Andrew for me, please? Yep, thank you. Thank you, councillor. This item does have a confidential report, councillors, so if there wants to be any questions around the actual evaluation report, we will go behind closed doors. But is there any general questions or questions not in relation to that report? Councillor, Deputy Mayor.
Mr Mayor, it's just a typo that I can point out later, I think.
Perfect. Thank you. Similar position, councillors, there is the evaluation report, and if there's any particular questions around that confidential item, we'll just take those offline behind closed doors, given the commercial confidentiality. Any questions on this item? Thank you. And councillors, the early works for some of our capital projects. Any questions on any of these or this particular executive recommendation? Thank you. I have Councillor Steck's motion here. Again, there is a confidential attachment there, so if there's any questions on that, we can go to that. If not, and Councillor Steck, just so you're aware, obviously last week we did speak a little bit, but under the standing orders we do, if you have a motion of notice, you do need to have someone else or written notice that someone else can move it, hence why this was just deferred from the last meeting to this meeting. So clearly a motion of notice is moved by the motioner unless you give a written notice that someone else can move it. So, and that's just knowledge for anyone. If you have a motion of notice in the future, or if you aren't going to be there under the standing orders of the Local Government Act, you need to have written notice that someone else will move it. So hence it's back on this agenda. Was there any questions of the CEO or of Councillor Steck? Again, noting there are some confidential attachments there. All good? We'll deal with that next week. Thank you. I believe that brings us to a close. So thank you, elected members, for joining us. Thank you, staff members.